Hey y'all, I'm JB. Welcome to Eagle's Nest Outdoors. Today I want to talk about something that I haven't really seen much talk about at all, and that's building a canine bug out bag. Actually, I'll talk a little bit about emergency preparation for your pets in general, but then I'll go into the canine bobs because, well, one, I have dogs, so I can speak from my experience, and two, there aren't really any other pets that are big enough to haul some of their own gear. I put the pets in quotes there because I don't think most people are thinking of horses and whatnot when they hear the word. Anyway, if you're like me, your pets are a part of your family, so they should be just as much a part of your family's emergency plan. You got a gallon of water per day stored for each of your family members? You should also have half a gallon of water a day stored for your dog. You got food for your family? You should have food for your pet. Does your pet need any medications? Make sure you've got them on hand too. If your plan is to evacuate in the case of an emergency, have a plan for rounding up your pet and their gear and getting it out the door along with everything else. It killed me last year when that hurricane went through Florida. See all the footage of dogs that people left tied up to trees when they left. I have a few choice words for people like that. I'm going to keep them to myself because if I shared them, this video would probably be about twice as long and twice as likely to get censored for my creative use of language. But I'm guessing if you're watching this video, it's because you're not planning on doing that. So, anyway. If you're bugging out, then you need to know where you're going. Many emergency shelters will not accept pets, so you'll need to have a plan. An established bug out location where you and your pets will be safe. If you're evacuating by vehicle, I know some pets can be tricky to get in the car. My best advice here is to be prepared to do whatever you do when you need to wrangle them up to get them to the vet, whatever sort of bribery that takes. I know with some pets, like one of my dogs, they don't sit still once you get them in the car. Again, there's solutions for this, from putting a crate in the car for them to be in, to getting one of those gates that block off a section of your car. If those aren't options because of the amount of space inside your vehicle, then you might want to look at some of the products that let you connect their harness to a seatbelt. In short, what I'm getting at is when stress is high, the last thing you need is your pet keying off of that and making things even more hectic. So try to keep them contained and as calm as possible. That's a good segue into what to pack for your pet. In a lot of ways, you got to think your pet the same way you'd think of a kid. Besides the necessities of food, water, shelter, you're going to need to keep them happy and entertained. Plenty of their favorite treats go a long way, but a toy or a favorite blanket, something that's familiar and loved, will really go a long way. Now, if you're going by foot, then you may want your dog to carry some of their own gear. Your rule of thumb for how much they can reasonably carry is that the pack weight should not exceed 25% of their body weight. Now, that assumes a dog in reasonable physical shape. They can get a couple good walks a day, etc., etc. If your dog's highly active, running, working, agility, whatever, like all the time, then they might be able to carry a little more. If they're couch potatoes, or just getting old and sore, like me, then you'll want to ease up on the load. Now, with most dogs, you're not going to just be able to throw this pack on them and go. They'll just look at you like, what's this new thing? First, you'll need to get them used to wearing their new pack. Stick it on them, let them wander around the house with it empty for an hour or two. Do this a couple of times. Then you can start to put stuff in it, eventually working up to the full load. This is where a tool like a luggage scale comes in handy, so you can keep track of the weight of the pack. Also, as you're adding weight, make sure the load on each side is even. Once you get it all loaded up, if they start to look at you like, for real? Then it's time to take a few things out. Don't expect that your dog is going to be able to carry everything that they need. Your only goal here is to get them to carry some of it so you don't have to. There are a lot of different dog packs on the market. Some of them are great and some of them are trash. I'm going to talk a bit about some of the features that you should be looking for and show you a couple of the packs that I have and tell you what I like about them and what I'm less thrilled about. Before you buy anything, you're going to have to take some measurements of your dog. The most common measurement that you'll need is their girth, measured around the widest area of their chest. Just get a tape measure like this one and wrap it around the thickest part of their chest, which will typically be just behind their front legs. For some packs, you'll also need to know the width of their chest, usually measured across the front of them from shoulder to shoulder. The last number you may need will be their length, usually measured from the base of the neck to the base of the tail. Armed with those three numbers, you can start to shop around. Perhaps the two most important features you'll be looking for will be the waterproofness of the pack and the durability of the pack. Ripstop nylon often fits both builds and is relatively light to boot. Another thing to look at is the stitching. Straps that are double stitched will obviously be more durable in the long run. Metal rings where your leash hooks on will last longer than plastic. After that, just like for us, different packs will have different capacities. Don't get something huge if your dog isn't going to be carrying much, but also don't get something so small that it's hardly worth having. Now, this pack comes from REI, and honestly, is more for day hiking with your dog than anything else. I'm underwhelmed by the capacity. Even when these expansion gussets are opened, I really don't think you can get 8 liters of anything in here. But what I do like is that this has a somewhat streamlined design. It's going to minimize snagging on things at least a little as your dog tears through the underbrush. This mesh back here provides some breathability, and this nice sturdy metal leash clip, these padded straps, and especially this 3-point system here in the front are all nice features. The padding on the straps is going to reduce chafing because it's going to slide around a little bit. But this 3-point system keeps the whole thing from sliding around too much. I like that. Now, the pack I have for my bigger dog is by Mountainsmith. Again, I'm not sure if this could really hold 10 liters, but the size and shape of the pouches does let me put a lot more in here than the other one. These pouches are less streamlined, it's a little squarer, but this goes on my dog who's less likely to go chasing after the first rabbit he sees. The straps are padded, but and you've got the same 3-point system here, so that's nice. We don't have the mesh back here. There is some mesh here, but it doesn't go all the way through. It's padded underneath here. So we're only getting a little bit of breathability compared to the other one. Now, one of the things I also keep looking at are some of these tactical Molly dog harnesses. With a couple of strips of Molly web in here, down each side, there's endless ways you can configure a pack like this. There's just one example. There's all kinds of different pouches and accessories that you can get that are Molly compatible, and they slide through those little loops and keeps everything in place. There's a lot of flexibility with a pack like this, and you can take things on and off as they're needed, which is nice. So you can have as much storage space on there as you can fit and that your dog can carry. Of course, the drawback to something like that is that you have to buy each of these different pieces separately, so it can add up pretty quick. Alright, enough about packs. Let's talk about what to put in them. Food and water are obvious priorities. For my dogs, each have 4 1-quart Nalgene bottles. 2 are wide mouth for kibble, and the other 2 are narrow mouth for water. Obviously, how far that goes for your dog varies on how much they eat per meal. Now, food and water can get heavy, so my dogs don't necessarily carry all of this, but these smaller bottles can fit easily into my pack or on other members of my team. We're still talking about water. My dogs usually carry, where'd they go? A couple water purification tabs just in case. And my bigger dog, where'd it go? Oh, it's hiding here somewhere. He carries a water filter. There we go. A nice hard case here to keep it from getting banged up, so that we can refill those bottles if we come upon a water source in the field. Now, what's most essential, you don't necessarily need all that fun stuff, but what you definitely need is a collapsible food and water bowl. This is essential. Something like this is nice and compact. And boom, comes your food and water bowl. They'll need that no matter what you're doing outdoor living. Shelter's next. Actually, I figured that the dogs sleep in the tents with us, but each also has a wool blanket stored in its own dry bag. We typically carry these because they're really too bulky to strap onto one of these packs, but in the case that we did need them, each of my dogs does carry a cargo strap. We also carry a couple of those corkscrew style tie-outs to keep them from roaming too far out from camp. Those are light and easy to use without needing any extra tools to pound them into the ground or whatnot. Now, where I live, it can get cold and wet. So I also own neoprene vests and boots for all my dogs. They have different opinions on wearing them, but they are good to have. You may not need something like this, depending on where you live. In a similar vein, another thing I have for my dogs are these LED collars. It's a great way to keep track of them in the dark. There's a LED strip in here, you turn them on, and you can see them in the dark. Lastly, but never leastly, first aid. Every member of my team carries a first aid kit, even the dogs. Now, obviously they aren't going to be applying this to themselves, but they may need it just as much as anyone else. On the flip side, though they aren't trained search and rescue dogs, if only because there aren't any SAR trainers in my area, the first aid that they carry might be useful to someone else. They each have one of these basic kits, comes in a hard protective case, and on top of that, each of them also carries a roll of vet wrap, which is like an ace bandage, but it has this handy Velcro strip sewed into it. They also each carry an appropriately sized muzzle, in case they adamantly object to any procedure that needs to be performed on them. I love my dogs, and they love me, but a hurt animal doesn't always act rationally. Between this kit and the kit that I carry, which is a whole different topic, we can handle most situations. Well, that's all I've got for now. Hopefully I've given you some things to think about and some tips on what to look for. Until next time, stay safe and have fun.